Hello, and welcome to Hopeful Conversations, brought to you by Robbie's Hope Foundation. I am your host, Kari Eckert. Joining me today is Bella Wright, writer of The Gardening Club with Carly McRitchie. The Gardening Club is a new pop rock musical. Bella, thank you for joining me on Hopeful Conversations.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Okay, so Bella, you are a talented pop rock artist from Montana, and you entered one of our Hope contests, the Hall of Personal Expression, and you won in 2023 with Cameo. Can you tell our listeners what that experience was like?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was an incredible experience because I wrote the song just in my little bedroom on my bed with my acoustic guitar, and I had already been observing Robbie's Hope online and doing some of the ambassador workshops to learn about resources for teenage suicide prevention and all of that. But then I saw the arts contest pop up, and I'm a songwriter, so I submitted this song that I wrote that's just an outside observation on how humanity as a whole can come together to support each other. I did not think it was going to go anywhere because obviously there's a huge nation full of talented artists and creatives. So when I got the email from you two that was like, you have won the competition and we're going to fly you out to Denver to record, it was like a dream come true. I was jumping up and down in my bedroom. I called my parents. I was so ecstatic. I was so excited. And then I got to go to Denver with one of my best friends, Kennedy, who recorded on the song with me, and I got to meet so many cool people and see how a professional recording studio worked. It was just a crazy cool opportunity. I just felt very grateful the whole time.
Was that the summer in between your junior and senior year of high school, or what summer of?
Ooh,
you have to think back.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I think it might have been the summer after. Was it a summer? I feel like it might have been.
It probably was sometime 2023. So just 2 years ago. Maybe you were a graduate.
I don't really know.
Right. Well, now you're in a very different space, and it's really exciting. But I love to hear like the students' perspective of that experience, because I think it's pretty unique to the Hall of Personal Expression, and something I'm really proud that we're able to give young people as an experience.
Yeah, it's so cool that you guys offer it. I think that kind of opened my eyes a lot about also what I wanted to do for my career. It was like, oh, somebody else besides my mom and dad think that my music could tell a message to the world. And I think that's the most important thing about wanting to pursue the arts for me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so more into the arts, and to you, Bella, your lyricism, I hope I pronounced that word correctly. I'm not very talented in the realm that we're talking about. So this is a little bit out of my space, which I love to experience and learn more about. But you're described as humble and human. What does that mean to you as an artist and just to us as a person?
Oh, wow. I don't know. Sorry, my cats are next to me if you hear random meows. Humble and human, that's a huge compliment. I think when I hear that describing an artist, I kind of assume it means that the lyrics are very candid or honest and kind of not saying the generic cliches that everyone might say. They're kind of just saying what's like raw, like diary entry kind of words is what I think by like humble and human. And nothing that's too like show offy, like look at me, like it's not like a pop track that's like I'm on top and I am the winner. It's very much just like I said, kind of my observations on humanity and my experience with other people while on this planet.
Okay, so tell us how you met Carly, your co-writer of The Gardening Club, the musical that we're going to talk about.
Yes, Carly is my best friend and creative soulmate. I met her when I was 18 years old, studying music at university in Liverpool, England. We met at LIPA, which is Liverpool Institute for the Performing Arts. It's Paul McCartney's music school, and we both kind of went there with the mission to form a band and have our music kind of get out there so we could make a living off of being musicians. And she actually hated musical theater. She was not into musicals at all. She thought they were super just like not her forte. But being my new best friend, I was like, well, I have to drag you to every musical with me because I grew up in a huge musical theater family. My parents met working at the community theater here in Missoula, and so it was a huge part of me. And I just started dragging her to shows in London on the West End, and over time, she was like, this is a beautiful way of storytelling. And then it was the summer after our first year when we were both like writing music together, and she said, what if we wrote a musical? And I turned around and I was like, if you mean that, that is my dream. I will do it in a heartbeat. And we started putting 2 hours aside every single day from that point on to start writing the Gardening Club. And that was when we were 19, and now I'm turning 23.
Wow. How did you have that like discipline or know that you needed to put 2 hours aside? That's
I think it's just our lives were very, very busy at university with classes and gigging with our bands and releasing music on Spotify. And we knew that if we didn't actively make time to write this story, that she would die. She'd go away.
okay. So tell us about the story. It's described as unseen, unfiltered, unforgettable. It's a story, 5 women in 1960 in Georgia
Mm-hmm.
who form a secret ring to distribute the birth control pill illegally using a garden club as a cover up. How does a 19-year-old?
So we both, when we were deciding what we wanted the musical to be about, we knew it was like we wanted it to be historical fiction because that was just our interest, and we know write what you know. So we were like, we want this to be um, a feminist narrative about sex positivity and identity and discovering who you are and what your role is in society. And so we thought we would go around and interview a lot of our family members and our friends about their relationships to the words toxic masculinity or toxic femininity or just sexuality in general. And we just had a lot of very insightful conversations for a few months doing these interviews. And then we just did a bunch of research around the time of the American South in the 1960s and how it applied to women. And then we kind of just over time started creating these characters with different narratives we wanted to be told. And then we wrote the music around those characters. And then the story kind of just from that became sculpted. And honestly, even in this past year, we've rewritten the entire script. We've cut 2 main characters. Like it's always evolving, this story. The more time we show audiences, the more time we get feedback. We're very just like keen on adapting it so it makes the most sense to the public. But yeah, so we started it then with the research and such. I feel like I'm going on a ramble now. But yeah, the show is basically about, like you said, the 5 women in 1960, Savannah, Georgia, USA, who start the secret drug ring to distribute birth control illegally because in the year 1960, the birth control pill was only just available for women who were married. And even then, it was just recently like a resource available for them as well. And there was a lot of health misinformation around the pill, a lot of side effects that were double the dosage of what it is nowadays and just hurting a lot of women, but no one did anything about it because they assumed women were dramatic and not speaking the truth. And so that's kind of a huge factor in our story as well.
Okay, there's a lot right there. Wow.
Sorry.
What? No, I love it. What is who? Okay, so there's 5 characters in the Gardening Club. That hasn't changed, right? There's still 5?
There's still 5 right now.
Okay. A fiery journalist, a boisterous nurse, a mysteriously troubled girl next door, and the pastor's daughter. Is that still who they are?
So actually, no, it's adjusted a little bit since then. So, and there was a version of that show that did go on stage, so that is correct in some sense. The difference is instead of the pastor daughters, they are now just 2 teenage daughters. One of them's a bit older, and she's a social butterfly. She loves to go out partying, and then her younger sister, Vicky, she's more of the bookworm keeps to herself, but she dreams of a world where she is the hero. She is the knight in shining armor. So those are the two sisters. And then the mysterious girl next door, instead of the girl next door, she is now the newsroom CEO's housewife. So it's just a little bit more of a traditional housewife narrative there instead. Very, like, it might seem like slight adjustments, but to the plot, it was giant.
Wow. Goodness. Is there a character that is like more interesting to you as a writer, or more of maybe complex or more of a challenge, like to share their part of the story?
Oh, that is such a good question. I would say everyone was challenging in a different way, but the first one that comes to mind was our character Maggie. Maggie's the 19-year-old older sister, and she's so confident. She's very extroverted, and you see her as this bubbly, radiant person on stage most of the show. Especially, like, she's very sexually confident, but in the second act, she ends up using, like, her body kind of not for good to try to help the greater good of concealing the drug ring and making sure that they all don't go to jail and all these things. But because she's gone against her own morals, you see this bubbly, confident character kind of break down into this quieter, vulnerable self. And I think that was really hard to try to write because, I mean, it's essentially just us putting ourselves in her shoes and trying to understand how we would react in that situation. I think it was hard to write because it was a heavy character to write. It was a very heavy storyline for us to figure out. And I remember Carly and I would sit in our backyard on a picnic blanket trying to write these songs for her, and we would just cry because we just felt like it was such an emotional storyline and we really connected with her, and we've had a lot of friends connect with her as well. So I think she was the most powerful storyline to write for me personally, but also one of the harder ones.
Wow. I really picked up on how you just said, like, trying to experience what the character's experiencing, like seeing it through their lens.
Yeah.
Like, that's so much what's kind of, in my opinion, like lacking right now in the world of mental health. Like, oftentimes we only look inward versus trying to see what our fellow people that maybe we're close to or not close to are experiencing, and can we
Yeah.
empathize with them?
Absolutely. I think that's a huge theme throughout the entire show is what are we all thinking and not sharing with each other? What do we feel like we're not allowed to say out loud? Especially for the women of 1960, where they feel like a lot wasn't allowed to be admitted. And so we have several songs just surrounding the motif of shame. Like, what are we too ashamed to say or admit? Like, like a lot of them are like, I'm not having a good time. I don't enjoy my life right now as a housewife, but I feel like I can't speak up about it. And they all have their own versions of that, which I think is why this show hit so hard for me and other people, hopefully, because they feel like, oh, I felt like I couldn't say that either. And then there's this show bursting into song, saying it in every expressive way you can.
Okay, so the show is described as like a journey in self-discovery. Is that, as like a writer, a goal, or does that, some of that just come like naturally from telling the stories of the characters?
I think it was definitely the goal. Yeah, I think we really wanted to show that people should encourage that dialogue with themselves, try to get to know themselves and try to be proud of it and try to express that out loud.
So you had a goal in the writing.
Yeah, it was actually, we had a different goal for each character in the very start, which I'd be curious to look back at the old drafts to see if we followed through. But for example, like Betty, our older character, we wanted our goal for her to be um, she discovers that she wants self pleasure and she learns how to do that. And then with Phoebe, her goal is the feminist agenda. She wants to be a journalist that speaks out about women's rights and that she has a space on the column where she's allowed to do that and she's celebrated for speaking out. And then for our, like, Sheila, she's the housewife. We wanted her to feel brave enough to speak out about wanting to have her own life and adventures and journeys outside of just being her husband's wife and having those opportunities. And then the sisters, it's the older sister wanting to, like, speak out about being sexually confident but not getting put down by society for doing so. Just it's her choices that she's making, and she shouldn't be judged for it. And then her younger sister was a kind of a combined narrative on like puberty and growing up and like that shift into womanhood. And also, I think similar to Phoebe's, just kind of having her own narrative and adventures she wants to speak out about. But yeah, we set a different goal to each character in the very beginning of the writing process. And so I hope that they all lead towards self-discovery, because I think that's kind of what it is. I'm completely nerding out about this show now. This is probably the way too in-depth brief you needed.
No, it's really, really interesting. Like the fact that you and Carly are 22 years old, and that like insight and wisdom that obviously you have brought to this musical, but just the journey that you've taken is fascinating to learn about for me. And I imagine our listeners as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been so fun. And as much as we've like thought a lot about these characters, they've also taught us a lot about like ourselves.
What's the one thing that you learned about yourself from this journey?
Whoa. I feel like don't give up. I think that's the biggest thing we could say. Something we say a lot throughout the musical is the idea of someday. And I feel like that just kind of sums up the battle with feminism. It's never like we've won or we've lost. It's just like we keep fighting and standing up for ourselves, because someday we'll hopefully get more opportunities and recognition that maybe our moms and grandmas didn't have.
That was one of my next thoughts, is how does this apply to, so this is a story in the 1960s being told in 2025. Like, how can the viewer, because we're going to talk about this is a live stream, so people outside of London can experience the gardening club. But how does somebody in 2025, like, what does it mean to today?
Yeah, I think you can go however big or small you're comfortable with it. You could go in a bigger scale and apply it to the current political atmosphere and what we are allowed to have as women, or you could go as small as your relationship to yourself. Like, are you shaming the way you act in a society, even though society's conditioned you to act a certain way as a woman? Like, I think it can go as small as that as well. So I think it's really what you want to take out of it, and I think each character has a different thing you could take from it. For me, I think I probably take a bit of all of it from writing it. I think I get kind of fired up about every angle you can. And even with the guys, I feel like I don't often talk about the male characters in our show, but they're just as important. We talk about the male mental health as well. And we have our guy, Miles, for example. He's a young teenage boy who's been told growing up that to be a man, he shouldn't talk about his worries or his anxieties or his feelings.
Oh, wow.
And so when he first starts kind of crushing on the younger sister, the Vicky, not like the other girl, he gets nervous and starts acting like a macho man, like how he should, which we try to do in a comedic way. But then we do have a heart to heart with them on stage, with him being like, I actually don't understand how I'm supposed to act as a man that's not been encouraged to express my feelings. And that's, we have that with all of our male characters as well. They're not as focused as the girls, but like it is still a very important part. We didn't want this to be a feminist story where it's all about the girls and all the men are bad guys, because that's not true. That's not true. And we give the guys the power to be allies in the story as well, which I think is super exciting. Here I've gone on a ramble again. What are we talking about?
No. The backstory is so like important, and oftentimes as a viewer of theater, like you don't get to dig into all of that. I think this is absolutely wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so you're like, there's a little bit of, not a little bit, that wasn't the word I wanted to choose. There's an activism portion of your artistic expression here in the gardening club. In Robbie's Hope, we have, when you were an ambassador, like an activism part. What from seeing and viewing and hearing about the gardening club can be the activism part?
Yeah. I think, again, on a scale thing, it depends on how much you're willing to get into it. I think we wanted people to leave the show feeling angry, but feeling hopeful. And angry enough to go and make change within even maybe their friend groups or their own communities, where when someone puts down another person for speaking their mind, another person is able to uplift them and be like, hey, why are we putting this shame? Why are we putting this judgment on them when we're all trying out to be humans for the first time? Like, and we're all trying to figure it out together. And so I think it could be as small as that or as big as you go to your senator and you fight for the policies that you think will best represent you and your sisters in the community. It's kind of just whatever you want to take from it. We just hope you take something. You take some sort of fiery, angry hope towards it. And I think something we've said for the gardening club is that it is like so relevant right now, but it was so relevant in 1960. And unfortunately, it's probably going to be relevant for a while. Like, that's the beauty and the ugly of this story, I think. So we just hope they walk away angry, but wanting to do something about it because we can.
I love how you are talking about like holding two things that are opposing at the same time. Like that's so much of life, and I don't think it's uncomfortable. I think there's some beauty in that, but sometimes we're uncomfortable with it or afraid of it. Like we feel like that can't be possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I like what you said with the word uncomfortable, because I think it might be uncomfortable at first if you're not used to it, if you're not used to like proudly saying like, "Oh, I want this." And then the more comfortable you get with it, the more empowered you can feel, I think. I know we're being so cryptic right now, but I think it just applies in so many different lights.
Okay, can I ask you like an age-related question to that?
Yeah.
Like, I'm in my 50s and you're in your early 20s. Like, we are 30 years apart, the two of us. And because as like with my role with Robbie's Hope, like in the really the always what we're trying to do is elevate the youth voice. And you're on that, that end of youth, young adult. Like,
The end of youth.
no. But I want to know, like, as Bella, like, how do you feel like your age group is with having those conversations and expression of like humanness? You use the words like we're all trying out to be a human. Like, really, I thought that was kind of cool. But what is your age group comfortable talking about?
That is such a good question. I think I'm lucky enough where I'm in the age bracket where talking about sex and your identity is celebrated, especially within the artist culture. I think it is very an open discussion, but I don't think I grew up with that open discussion. So I think I come from a narrative of where I was very shameful and embarrassed to ask questions about my own body or female health and things like that that I didn't really know about. So I think that has informed this narrative. But I think currently I would say I'm in a space where it is more accepting. I wouldn't say we're all the way there yet, but I think for the most part I am in an artist community between Liverpool and London, so it is quite spoken about.
Okay, so tell us about like this musical has been in a couple different places. You were in Liverpool, March 2024 debuted, August 2024 the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, January 2025 at the Other Palace in London, and then this September you're going to be debuting with ATG, which I'm not sure what ATG is. Maybe you can explain that, at the New Wimbledon Theatre the 18th through the 27th of September. Tell us about that.
Thank you for the lineup. That was so beautifully researched. So we opened the show our last year of university in March, like you said, in Liverpool. And that was an incredible experience. It was 50 people all coming together, working on the set, the light, the sound, the costumes. We had an 8-piece pop rock band. I was in there conducting. Carly was assistant directing. It was just an incredible experience. And we didn't even mean to, but the shows actually opened on the first day of spring, which felt very like spiritual to me, I think. And then after that, we started to get ready for the transfer to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, and that was in August. And that time Carly and I were in the cast member, like we were in the cast as well. And we went to Fringe in August, and that was also a crazy experience because we had never been to Fringe before, and we sold out every show. And Playbill, which is like a world recognized theater publication, somehow heard about the show and wrote an article about us, which for like 10-year-old self who used to collect playbills, that was like a huge deal for me.
I bet.
So that was really fun. And then after that show closed, LIPA, our university, invited us back for just a one night show to just kind of welcome the new incoming students. And so we did the Fringe version at LIPA again, and that was our biggest audience at that point. That was in the Paul McCartney Auditorium, and they actually followed it up with a Q&A. So we were able to have similar to this dialogue with this audience, which was terrifying and super exciting.
Do you like that? How do you feel about Q&A? Like,
I do like it, and it's so interesting. It's ironic because it's the opportunity to get to stand up and speak out about what we're confident about. But again, it is still uncomfortable material sometimes. Like, you still are, everyone is so delicate with their own relationships with these topics, and you just don't want to offend anyone or make anyone spiral. So I feel like I do appreciate every opportunity to speak out about it, but it does make me nervous on a personal level sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, and then after that show, we Carly and I submitted a few of the Gardening Club songs into this new musical theater cabaret in London at the Other Palace, and then they had us down there in January of this year to feature some of our songs, and that did really well too. That one was interesting though because it wasn't the whole show, so the songs were taken out of context a bit, which I think was maybe better or probably confusing. And now we're getting ready for our debut with ATG. ATG is one of the UK's biggest ticketing service for West End. So that was a huge deal for them to offer us to open up their season at the new Wimbledon Theatre in the studio. And we're super excited about it. We've been doing prep for it since March, and now it's only a few weeks until then, and we're already 65% sold out. So it's going really, really well. But yeah, that's kind of our next journey, and then we'll see what happens. Oh, I guess after that, then November is our first ever live stream version of the Gardening Club, which will still be hosted at the New Wimbledon Theatre with a capacity of like 1,500 seats. But it is a live streamed event globally, as we've been able to connect with a wider demographic through TikTok and social media. So we wanted to be able to offer them a space where they could be included on the journey.
So where can people find the Gardening Club and Bella and Carly for our listeners? Like, share your socials, share that live stream.
Yeah, it's honestly, if you just Google the Gardening Club musical, it should come up with all the links to our tickets. If you want to look on Instagram, we're the Gardening Club musical. If you want to look on TikTok, we're under our theater company's name, which is just Nowhere Girls Theater. And that's where Carly and I act like goofballs on videos trying to promote our art. But yeah, the Gardening Club musical, if you look that up, you should find us in all of the corners of the web.
Okay, awesome. Did you know that Jason and I are coming to see your musical?
I did! He told me, and I'm so excited. I actually freaked out when I got that message. It just made my heart swell. I can't wait.
Awesome. I'm really excited. It's probably one of my favorite parts of doing the work of Robbie's Hope is following young people like you and watching you on that next step is just from afar. I don't know you that well, Bella, but it's a true joy to be able to do that. So I will see you in London in a few weeks. But before I let you go, I have a couple more questions. I just want to know, you're 22 years old. Obviously, your life is really exciting, but also still has some difficult parts of it. You're trying to, it's not easy to be a young artist. It's not easy to be an artist. It's not always easy to be a human. How do you take care of yourself?
How do I take care of myself? I'm a huge journaler. I love journaling. I try to make space for expelling all of those emotions and just verbal blah. Journaling's huge for me. I really do like meditation as well in the mornings. I think my brain moves way faster than I want it to usually. So, and sometimes that's helpful, but sometimes it stresses me out. My past employer said I'm very naturally caffeinated. So I think sometimes a space in the morning to just breathe and meditate and feel present and grateful for what's happening today and not tomorrow and not the next day is really helpful for me to remember. And I'm still actively really working on those practices because I do find myself on like week 10 of no time with journaling and meditation, and I can notice the difference that I'm more scraggle brained, I'm more irritable and like less patient. So I think those are two things that really make a difference for me. And then I think also just surrounding myself with people that have similar values to me and passions to me.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I think we can all learn, what from somebody else's personal experience, maybe what's working for them and what hasn't worked for them. And I just really appreciate that you said it's not always the same each day. Like sometimes mindfulness is what works for me. And then sometimes I'm distracted and I can't, use that meditation to ground myself for that day. So I think offering grace for yourself is a good skill to try to have. I try to do that for myself, and I got to work at it.
Yeah, it is practice. Absolutely.
Practice, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so I end every podcast with the same question.
Okay.
Bella, what does the world need to hear right now?
Whoa. I'm not gonna lie, the first thing that came to mind was the Robbie's Hope tagline. Was that it's okay to not be okay. That was the first thing that literally popped in my brain, but I feel like I'm not gonna steal that. Y'all.
You can steal that. That's why we have it. We want people to know that regardless of what age group, demographic, part of the world they fall into. Like we're humans. We're not always perfect. We don't always have great days. It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah. And I think that's the first thing that came to mind. And maybe if I just wanted to like add the little extra part that from the gardening club in me, it would be and speak up and like stand up for what you want to say, whether it's for yourself or for others. Just say something. Let your voice out there.
I like that a lot. Well, Ella, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time out of maybe a little bit of vacation right before this really big, busy time and just like reconnecting with Robbie's Hope. I just really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I wish you and Carly the best of luck with the gardening club this fall and in the future.
Thank you so much.
Of course. To our listeners, thank you for joining us today on Hopeful Conversations. Be sure to tune into our next episode. And until then, remember, hold on, pain ends. Thanks, Bella.